And here's a really nice example. This was taken actually at a wedding. Now this was done after the wedding. They had a really early wedding, and the wedding was over quite early, so we had some time. So I just asked them to go right outside the reception hall there. They had a nice little courtyard type thing, and I wanted to take some more portraits because we didn't have enough time after the ceremony, and then we did now. So, but this is just a case of it's nothing really spectacular. It's more like a snapshot type of a look, because this was done again using the same lens, 70 to 200, and this one here was done at 70 millimeter. So I took it all the way in actually to 70 millimeter, and this was done at f8. So you can see a lot of things that are in blurry. It's very busy. It's not a very good portrait, but it's a good sample to show you. And the other one, we come in a little bit closer at 149 millimeters, so you can see the background is a little bit more now out of focus. And then we also opened up to 6.7, another stop, which also helped blur the background a little bit more. And here, it's the same location, but I zoomed all the way in to 200 millimeter, and I opened up on this one to f4. And you can see the background is just really, really beautifully soft, even though it's cropped quite close. So here you can see that the background has just a beautiful, nice, soft touch to it. And looking at two other ones here, and this is a profile, again, of just the bride. And this particular one was taken at 89 millimeters at f4.8. Same lens, 70 to 200. And then I zoomed in closer, and this one here now was at 137 millimeters. 137 millimeters. However, I did make this one a little bit of a soft, I call it misty effect around the edges. But if you look next to her face, you can see how much softer the background really is. So this makes such a big difference. Okay, and then here we bring the groom in, and now this is interesting. This particular one, again, same lens, 70 to 200, and I set the zoom now for 74 millimeter. Background is just a little bit soft, not too much. It's at f4. Now, you know what's neat about these images, those last few? They were taken with the Fuji FinePix S2, which I purchased back in 2002, and it's a 6 megapixel file which gets interpolated to 12 megapixels. And being that it was taken with the Nikon 70 to 200 again, 2.8 lens, the quality is just fantastic. So anybody that's considering purchasing a camera and maybe you're on a tight budget, put your money in the lens if you can. If you put your money in the lens, you're going to get so much more quality out of it, because all these cameras today are just fabulous. They're fantastic. And then also notice that this was taken at ISO 400, shot at auto white balance, and on a wedding I'll shoot JPEG. And the neat thing about this image, or the next one, which is the one that I zoomed in closer now. Here I'm at 105 millimeter, not even 200, and then I opened up to 3.3. The f-stop is 3.3, and quite a bit more blur now in the background. And I had this one on my studio wall as a 24 by 30 portrait. Beautifully framed, and it was just crystal clear. It was just gorgeous. And this is with a 2002 camera, Fuji S2. That's a great camera. I'm still actually using it to this day. I use it for my wife's eBay business. But now you can see what the differences are when using different f-stops and different focal lengths, and if your distance is different. And also I was asked about the ISOs, and some of these, well, those last few were done at ISO 400, and because of the technology is so good today, I'll shoot anywhere from ISO 100 up to 800, and I can get some really, really sharp wall size images with that. However, I'll try to stay on the low side if I can. Like if we're outdoors, I may go into 100 or 200, or if I have to go 400, 400 is no big deal at all. I can still sell wall-size portraiture at 400 ISO. And if I don't shoot manual mode, because I'm pretty much old school, I shot everything manual. That's how it was back in those days. So I just got used to shooting that way. And there was never any surprises unless I screwed up. And but the cameras today, though, are so good that a lot of times I'll shoot Aperture Priority. And I really like Aperture Priority because what that does is it actually gives preference to your aperture. So if you want to shoot at 2.8, you'll just set your aperture at 2.8 and it'll select the shutter speed for you, which is our next topic. And your shutter speed ought to be fast enough so there's no image blur or there's any camera shake, which means that I usually use either a monopod or, in this case, a tripod. And I like using that tripod more for convenience than anything else, because once I set that tripod down, the camera stays on there, and then I can walk back and forth and I can do my posing when I pose the couple or the bride, instead of having to set the camera down all the time. This is when I do portraits. Of course, when you do the wedding things and the candid, a lot of it is handheld or it's on the monopod. So I'll shoot anywhere from a 60th of a second to 2,000th of a second. And in both cases here, in the last few portraits that I just showed you, they were all done outdoors with a reflector. And when I do a close-up, I usually use a reflector. Sometimes when we do the full lengths, I'll use a second light if a reflector doesn't work. My shutter speed that I'm shooting at might be anywhere from a 60th of a second on up. So it could be, I think there was some on here that I shot at 1/1250th of a second. Or sometimes I'll shoot at 2,000th of a second. On the close-ups here, they were all natural light with a reflector. I'll always bring a reflector in if I'm doing the close-ups. And when I'm doing the full lengths, I may use either reflector, and if the reflector doesn't work, I'll use a second light for a fill light, or sometimes has to be as a main light. So that's pretty much it with the best way of getting a sharper subject while getting a nice blur on the background. And I really hope this helped you. Thank you for watching.